No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, welcome to another episode of Wisdom on the Front Porch. And on my front porch today, we have John Graham with us. John, introduce yourself a little bit.
It's interesting that I'm here because we bought a house, 24 years ago. It was a 140-year-old Victorian. And while we remodeled it, I said it would take 3 months to my wife, but it took 14 years. What we did was we moved onto the front porch.
Oh,
And we spent most of our summers and probably most of the fall living on the front porch because I had a table saw and I had chop saws and I had drills and everything in the house because we
yeah.
literally rebuilt that house from the inside out. So a front porch is a very comfortable place for me.
Oh, yeah. I love front porches. This is actually the first house we've ever owned that has a real front porch on it that you can sit out there and see what's going on in the world around you.
We should curse that Frank Lloyd Wright for taking away the front porch.
Is that who did it?
Well, he designed the what we call the modern ranch house, and
Oh,
it emphasized the interior and the backyard, but the front porch is where you didn't have air conditioning, so you sat out there. Your neighbors came by, you talked. Often, particularly in Appalachia, you played instruments,
oh
and
yeah.
you can hear
Yeah.
music up and down the valley from the front porch.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've
I'm
actually
not going to play anything though.
taken my instrument out there and played. I don't play for anybody else, but I was able to pick a little tune out.
Well, I
It
play
is
the radio,
nice.
thank you.
All right. Hey. Yeah. So, of course, for those that are viewing this, they're going to see those amazing photographs behind you. Um, they're all outside. You have some in trees, some that show rivers, some that show looks like a road and rocks, and one of you taking pictures and a moon over something in the middle of the day.
Well, I'm a bit of a mountain climber, and
Ah,
see some of those pictures show the Rio Grande Valley on the Mexican border, and that road is actually the river.
oh,
And then you can see there's a right here. This is Mount Whitney
oh,
in the Sierra Mountains. That's 13,000 feet high, and
wow.
here we are in the laying under the trees in Nevada, half of the Sierras. So. I left a lot of sweat and blood in every one of those pictures.
I imagine so. So, what do you do now? Do you still mountain climb?
Well, I'm 76 and my ego is still writing checks, but my body is struggling to cash them, shall we say.
Yep. Yeah,
Uh,
I hear
my
you there.
brother's 80 years old and he's the climber and he's the one that goads me on. And he's actually much better at it than I. He's been up the face of Yosemite, if you can believe that.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Wow. That's a scary thought because I've heard that lightning strikes Yosemite quite often.
Actually, say in Big Bend, for example, we were there, which is probably the most remote national park in the country, and it can be upwards of 105 degrees, and I dehydrated twice there. But
Oh,
what happens is it's 100 miles from the nearest hospital, so
oh,
it's no small thing. And but what you have to watch for is the extremes. When you get up 6 and 7 thousand feet, the air is thinner, and you're sweating, but you don't notice it. And you dehydrate before you realize that you're dehydrated, and you're talking crazy, you're disoriented, and if you're alone, you could die. So I've grown to respect nature. Let's put it that way.
yeah. And that's good. I mean, you got to have a respect for nature,
Well,
whether
we
you're
don't do
in
that in
city
our
or not.
suburbs.
Yeah.
Well, a good example is in Big Bend. It rained once, and a fella got off trail, and he was lost for 2 days.
Oh,
And and of course that's rattlesnake and bear country and mountain lion country. So you like to think that you're at the local park, but you could end up being somebody's lunch.
Yeah, and not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Yeah, when you're invited to lunch, you're the main course.
It's kind of like the story of the guy. It's winter time and he comes up on a bear and and he wants to shoot the bear, and the bear goes, "Why are you going to shoot me?" He goes, "Because I'm cold and I need a warm coat." He goes, "Okay, come on here behind this rock and I can solve both of our problems." And he goes, "Well, what problem do you have?" And so they go around the rock, and the bear comes back patting his tummy. He goes, "Well, I'm not hungry anymore and you're not cold anymore."
Yeah, I think there's a moral of that one.
Yeah.
It, I took my wife up the trail where that rock face is right there. And she was so nervous because she was convinced there was a rattlesnake somewhere.
Oh,
So she sat on the rock and cried for an hour and a half.
oh no.
I had to
Oh,
take her back to San Antonio that night.
yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind rattlesnakes. One, they warn you that they're there. They're always shaking their tail. And two, they pretty much like to hide and stay away from you.
Yeah.
It's
They do a very good job of making us fear them.
yeah, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, yeah, that the very fact that we say they rattled, they're telling you, I don't want to talk to you, but I'm here.
Yeah, it's like you're getting too close. Go away.
We have a phrase here in Texas. It's before you pick it, you kick it.
Oh,
So
I
you
haven't
you
heard
you
that one.
you don't pick up a rock, you don't pick up a stick, you kick at it with your boots,
See
and
what's
if
under.
nothing crawls out, you're okay.
Yeah, because there's so many critters. You've got scorpions and snakes and who knows what else.
Scorpions actually are probably worse. You know, you
Yeah,
take your boots off in the tent at night and you put them on in the morning, and suddenly you've got this terrible,
got a friend.
terrible biting sensation.
Oh yeah, yeah. My husband, when I met him, we got married, and I'm watching him, and every morning he's takes his boots and he's shaking them out, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I don't want any bugs in there," and I go, "Why would there be bugs in there?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's the time you think there aren't going to be any that there's going to be bugs in there." And
There
it's
might be
like,
there could be a little old lady who lived in a shoe.
yeah, there you go.
Bunch of kids running around too. Couldn't believe
Yeah,
it.
Mrs. Scorpion, her baby scorpions.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah,
we do that here in Texas with
yeah.
come into the kitchen at night and you flick on the light and a cockroach will go scurrying.
Oh,
And
oh,
Yankees will come down and they'll be all upset. What's wrong with his house? And I say, he lives here too. It's just that if he sticks his head out, I swat him and then I wait for the next one.
yep.
It's part of living in a semi-desert.
Yeah, it is. It was that way in New Mexico too.
Oh,
Uh,
much more so, I would think. Yes.
yeah, and we actually had him in the rental we were at, but I haven't seen him here. Please don't come here because I just said that. But maybe it's because we've got the scorpions and other stuff here. I don't know. But we had him there too, so I don't think that's it. But
Actually,
yeah,
the one
snakes,
thing,
chickens around.
the critter that frightens me the most, that I truly give all the respect in the world to, is a skunk.
Oh
Because
yes, yep,
just that little thing can
yep.
make your entire house
Oh,
uninhabitable.
yeah,
And
we had one
even
in
running over them on the
Mexico.
road, they can make your entire car undrivable.
No kidding, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had one that I think the puppy came around the corner as it was coming around the corner the other way, and it actually sprayed the house, not the puppy, thankfully. But it's taken a few weeks for it to go away because, it doesn't rain a whole lot here in Texas.
Now think about that for a minute. That musk smell that was put off is actually, in their world, a mating smell.
Oh, I didn't know that.
To my knowledge, it's to attract the females, which tells you a whole lot about different cultures have different values.
That's right. A good example. I like that.
If I were the judge of mating, that would be the last thing that would attract me.
Yeah, me too. Ah, so tell us about your life in one sentence. No, it's kind of not fair. But it's like,
I,
gosh, you've got so much that you've done in your life, and I know you've written a book. We had you on the show. Um, I think we've had you on the show. Have you been on the show yet about your book?
yes,
I thought so. I thought so. Is that awful?
I
I've
know.
had so much going
The
on.
whole these podcasts blur to me after a while too. I have to say, who am I and where am I?
Yeah, there you go. Which one is this now?
Yeah.
But
But in a nutshell, if I were to give one sentence, I would say I've gone from being homeless to being a founder director of a nonprofit that last year turned an annual budget of $2 million to
mm,
a published author at 75. So what I say is never quit trying, never never quit the next chance because life is not a sprint where you run and done. It's a marathon and we just keep running.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And there are going to be so many bumps and boulders in the road, and someone, some bear comes along and slaps you out of the way for a while, and
Well,
you got to keep going.
it's particularly when you deal with people. Uh, my Good Samaritan Home is the organization I founded, and our primary purpose is to help men and women coming from prison restart their lives.
Oh,
So
wow.
we deal with people who have what I call a limp. They're damaged, and we're gonna fix them, but maybe we can help them walk better with their limp, and maybe they'll never be normal, but maybe they can be almost normal
Yeah, yeah.
because all of us have a limp.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. That's that. I was trying to think of another guest I had who was talking about the same thing is like we all have something, and it's how we deal with it, how we help others deal with their something, not that we're out there to fix everybody, but sometimes people need help to see something they can't see so they know how to proceed further. And um, we need to ask them first if they want help. Can't just put it on them and say, here, now you're better, go.
And that's one of the things I tried to deal with in my novel was the fact that we uh, we will make mistakes, and it does take a second or third or fourth chance. But life is written in pencil, and we can move on. It's not going to be forever like the internet, where they remember what you did in third grade. Uh, and that picture you let your boyfriend see, that we get erasers. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's a good way to put it. We've got everything's in pencil. Um, and, sometimes you get a whole new pencil and a whole new notebook to write in.
And some of us need lots of paper.
That's right. And lots of erasers.
It's funny you should mention that because in the year that my book has been out there, what I look for is the reader feedback, and it's unsolicited. It'll show up on Amazon or Goodreads, but I get the same comment. I identified with Daniel's journey. I understood where he was coming from, and I think that's the mark of what literature should do. It should
Yes.
not just transport you into the story, but give you hope that you can get through your own story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a children's book that I've had written for a while. And yeah, just one thing or another. And it's not a children's book. I thought I was writing a children's book. It's a story about a child, but it's not a children's book. Um, but in there is hope. And it's interesting you mentioned that you've got to have hope in your stories. That's one thing, the most comments I have received that are the same is there's always hope in what you write. And I think that comes from a place of I always look for hope in everything because
Mm.
hope is tangible, it is real, It's what gets everybody out of every situation they're in. Because if you don't have the hope, you're not going to try. And hope is always there. We just have to look at it. We have to see it. And yeah, it's uh it's easy to lose sight of hope. You don't ever lose hope, but you can lose sight of it.
At the risk of touching on politics without getting into it, I
Okay.
think right now we need hope.
Yes.
No matter what side of the spectrum you're on, I think Republicans, Democrats, Independents, we all feel this angst, this anxiety, and even fear that what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you look around at the world. Syria is a perfect example. This may be good, it may be bad, but it's change, and change always produces stress.
Yeah. It does. It does. Even think in your home when something is changing. Um, or there's an illness that happens in your family. And so now everything changes, or something else happens. And I think you need to look at that change as, well, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. And maybe it's like it's not good or bad. It's just a change. It's like I say here in Texas, things are not either good or bad. It's just different here. And it's not a good difference, not a bad difference. It's just different. And so you find a way to manage that difference. You find a way to look at it. You change your perspective a little if you need to. And then you keep going on and you might find something else that's different. And but it's not that it's bad. It's not that it's good. It's just there.
Sometimes, with that in mind, I take a different route or I turn my
Yeah.
schedule and I do something different uh, because it's uncomfortable and it makes me step outside my box. I'll give you a perfect example. There was an ad in the San Antonio paper. They were looking for extras for Harrison Ford's television show, 1923. And
Okay.
so I put my name in. I had my mugshot with my hat. I thought I looked pretty Texan. And I thought, what are the odds? I have no resume. I'm not an actor. And they called me up and said, would you come in for a fitting?
Oh,
So I went to Austin and got fitted for my outfit, and I got all set to do my scene. And then they cut it, of course, but I got a check for $32. So
oh
that
wow.
means that I am a professional actor.
There you go. Yeah, you got paid for it. Awesome.
You got paid for it. How many actors never get paid? But it's outside your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Actually, the worst part of the whole trip was driving up I-35 through Austin. Uh,
Yeah.
we call it the parking lot.
People say that, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, you don't use speedometers. You just cross yourself and just hit the accelerator.
go with the flow.
Yeah.
Make sure
Well,
that flow isn't hitting rapids.
Austin's a different world. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
With Willie Nelson is the favored son, so that set the tone for everything coming out of Austin.
I never thought of it that way. Oh, yeah, I never thought of it like that. Yeah, I've never been to anywhere else in Texas as far as living anywhere else. This is all that I've known. I don't live downtown. I live in one of the towns outside of Austin. And I think I've only been downtown maybe three, four times. And yeah, it's different. I actually enjoyed walking around downtown and seeing the different things, being there with a friend and one time I was there with my husband, one time I was there by myself for the Texas Book Festival, and that was pretty incredible. But it's I was amazed at all the tall glass buildings. I
Yeah.
thought, man, in this heat, they gotta be dying inside of there. But I know they put the protection and stuff so it doesn't get that hot from inside. But gosh, it's like, I think one day I may just go to one of those buildings just to walk all the way. all the way to the top and look out around and see it because it's even when you're at the airport and you're taking off, it's just an amazing view to see what's out there.
Yeah.
You have the town, but you've got all the country, you've got the lakes, and I didn't realize how many lakes were in Texas. Boy, lots of lakes. And you've got the little towns, and then you've got the horses, and you've got the forests, and you've got the rivers, and it's just really incredible to see.
I came to Texas in 1983. I was in the construction business, and there was no work in the north. And I just threw my stuff in my truck, left my family up north, came because we were in debt, obviously, and I came south. And within 3 months, I had stabilized and brought my family back. And in 6 months, we paid back our debts because the attitude I found in Texas was you get a second chance if you're willing to work hard.
Yeah.
In fact, I did some research, and the all the earlier settlers came from Appalachia in the South. They would leave their farms that were struggling, and they would put GTT on the fence post, and they'd leave, and the
Come to
GTT said,
Texas.
"Gone to Texas."
There you go.
Well, look at the Alamo. You had Davy Crockett, who was thrown out of the House of Representatives. You had Jim
Uh,
Bowie, who was running from every bar fight, and you had Colonel Travis, who was running from his family that he abandoned. And it goes on and on and on because Texas is a place of second chances
yes.
if you're willing to work.
Yeah.
And that's
And
what I
it's
like about it.
it's huge. I mean, where we live, it takes 8 hours just to go in any direction to get out of Texas.
It takes 8 hours to find a Democrat. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I've never looked for one.
Yeah, there's my point. There's a scene on that Young Sheldon show, which the writing sometimes is superb, but
Yeah.
they were having a confessional, and they were saying, "Well, my sister-in-law is a practicing witch," and the other one says, "I got you beat. My brother-in-law is a Democrat."
That one. That was a fun show.
I admire good writing because it
Yeah.
transports. It doesn't slap me in the face. There's no laugh track. And Seinfeld had that type of writing. It was just well done, and you had to think while you laughed.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah,
Um,
writing should, I think television should never be the lowest common denominator. It should be as informative as a documentary, but as enjoyable as a sitcom.
yeah, yeah. Have a really good story. That's what, when I was younger, I loved storytellers. Loved to listen to them, to hear how they talked and how they thought. And they brought the emotion into it, and then they brought the excitement and the quietness and the adventure and all of that into the story. I was mesmerized by them. Um, and it's like I always wanted to be a storyteller, but I couldn't tell a story for nothing. It's like trying to tell a joke. I was so excited about the punchline, I would just blurt it out and forget the journey along the way, and or else I wouldn't remember how it went, and I would only remember the punchline. And but over the years, I must have listened well enough because now I get to tell stories.
I just read a piece that Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, who produced the show, were so neurotic about staying on script that if you went off script and ad-libbed, they would immediately stop it because that
Oh,
lost the momentum.
uh,
Because you had the story was written for the climax of that joke, the delivery of that joke. And
oh,
if
I
you
get
changed
it.
it in any way, they lost momentum. And
Yeah,
I think that's what made it so good is that the fact that they demanded that they stay on target.
right, right. Well, we're talking about entrepreneurs on Wisdom on the Front Porch and helping them get to where they're going and offering them tools. And I think storytelling is an amazing tool to have because you want to capture people's attention. You want to hold them into your story till you bring them through the end of where you want them to go. Um, do you have any specific advice about entrepreneurs telling what they do in a way that is intriguing for people to want to know more.
One thing I learned in writing and in publishing in particular, when I was trying to find agents, is you have maybe 90 seconds to sum up 10 years writing in an elevator, and you have to get somebody's attention immediately.
Right.
And that we always say, well, here's more. Let me give you the backstory. But you must sum it up. And I think the same thing is true when you're trying to describe what business or entrepreneurial venture you want to go on, particularly when you're trying to get backers. You have to not just give them the facts. Uh, the best example of that was when I was trying to get Good Samaritan Home through the community because there was a lot of resistance. I had to go to
Mm,
the city council and present the data about reentry and how safe it actually was. And it would actually make the community not just safer, but it would be economically sound for people to be here working instead of in jail and just
right.
taking money. But the truth was that nobody listened to my data. What I had to end up doing was writing stories for the newspaper, anecdotal stories, sometimes funny stories, just to get people's attention. And the novel was exactly the same thing. It was a fictionalized story of second chances. And now people will read that who may not agree with my politics or what we're doing, but they love the story.
Oh,
So
wow.
transfer emotion. If it's something is important to you and with this business you want to do, this dream, then give me that emotion. Let me
Wow.
feel why that's important. And nobody does it better than the dreamer.
Yeah. Yeah, because you got to have a lot of emotion in there because that fuels your passion. And that passion is what drives you to take action to get to where you want to go, to take the next step, to keep on going when it gets tough. You mentioned that there was a lot of opposition. How do you handle something like that? How do you say, maybe I shouldn't do this? Maybe this is just too tough. I mean, I'm glad you didn't, but I'm sure you had to go through that.
It was probably looking back, if I had known, I don't know what I would have done. But we started off by inviting a man in who had just been released from prison and had referred to us, and he had nowhere to go. So he came to our house, and I thought this was great. I'll share this story with the reporter who called me.
Yeah.
And I thought that would be a very positive thing, get the community involved. Within 2 days, there were petitions being passed around. There were ordinances being passed at the city council. There were letters to the editor. There were threats. It got so bad that I had police protection going to some meetings because of fear, a
Yeah.
fear of the unknown, fear. Well, we see it now in politics. Springfield, Ohio is not far because my business is actually in Ohio. And
Okay.
it's Springfield, Ohio had the Haitian crisis.
Mhm.
And they were convinced that people who had been there for years were now eating their cats and dogs and they were going to devour their children. And it was all fear of nothing.
Right. Right.
And so what happened was I realized that if I believe this, then I have got to stay with it. But truth was, I had nowhere else to go. I had committed to this all my time and energy and effort. We put all our little funding into this house to remodel,
Right.
and we had no options. My wife worked at McDonald's, so we had a minimal salary,
Oh my.
and Good Samaritan Home was had no funding other than meager grants, $5,000 a year budget, and you can't live on that. And it was it was about as difficult as I could have imagined. But my son, who's a policeman, attended one of the meetings, and he said he watched how I responded to this vicious hatred that was some of the people expressed, and he said that he had never seen faith expressed in such a positive way as he did the way I said nothing back to them.
Oh
And
wow.
I thought this is what it's about. It's not about telling people what they should believe or what you believe. it's the less you say and the more you exude compassion, even for your enemies.
Yeah.
John Lewis said that when he's in Congress and somebody who's very critical of him, because he had been 50 years in the civil rights movement, he said, I always call those people brother, even though they don't speak to me. Because
Yeah.
if I don't do that, it will change me.
It
And
reminds me of that.
I think it made me. I think doing that responding according to the best of my faith
Right.
actually made my faith stronger and it helped me get through it.
Yeah. It reminds me of that Bible verse where you you bless your enemies. You,
Bless them that curse you. Do good to
yeah.
them that hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just for them,
But
because when
for
you point a
you.
finger, you got four of them pointing right back at you.
Yep. I did a talk one time and I talked about how, in the 70s we had the one-way stance. Everybody was one way, and that was really cool. But when you take your finger, and I'll point right here, one, you've got that finger there, but you've got those other fingers pointing at you. Now, if you take that and you point it at yourself, now you've got that all wrapped up in there, and it's still pointing to you, and those fingers are coming back this way. And so don't point a finger at anybody. But when you've got your finger up here, I see it as God pouring the blessings in you. Where are those fingers?
Yeah.
They're showering you. They're showering you. And
It's
it's like,
interesting you should
yeah,
mention that. Very interesting because the no matter what I said, people were not convinced with the data.
yeah,
So come winter, I took my snowblower and I cleaned everybody's sidewalk on my entire block. And I did that every time it snowed. And we spent our time making our house the cleanest and the quietest on the block. And in time, we never said a word, but in time, those same people who used to wave at us with one finger, if you know what I mean,
yep.
they now use all their fingers.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So my best sermon was a snow blower.
There you go. Yeah. And sometimes it's turning the other cheek, which is what you did, you know.
It's not
And
a passive. It's not considered passive or non. It's actually much more threatening to be nonviolent because you're in control.
yeah,
It's I did a lot of study under Dr. King, not directly under him, but under his teachings, and I think that was the heyday of what the church can do and should do in the community,
yeah,
where you
yeah,
actually make your faith very real to the hurting community where it's needed the most, and you love your enemies in the process.
yeah. And I like that where the hurting community where it's needed the most, because that was one thing Jesus said, why are you always, he was asked, why are you always with these sinners and these really bad people? And he goes, because it's not the healthy that needs a physician, it's the sick.
Absolutely,
Sure.
and
Yeah,
the church attendance overall is down 20% in the United States, and the number of people, particularly my grandchildren's age, who identify as they call them nuns, or they have no religious affiliation, because they have seen nothing in the church to attract them, and I
right.
don't disagree with them.
Yeah, yeah. And
That's the
and it's
sad part.
changed. I've watched it change and it's like Um, I was in one church a couple of years, well, would have been 3 years ago now, and they said, we really miss the people who pray together, who really pray and things happen. And why doesn't that happen anymore? And I think a lot of people have become too passive, have become too, I just want to get along with everybody.
Mm,
And and that's hard because when you pray, you're going to pray things are going to happen. It's sorry, it's coming
that's
over
okay.
my
Mine did the
computer
same thing.
there. Um,
When I look at I we have to be careful here, but I look at politicians who have gone from far left to far right because that's where the wind went. And I don't
yes,
care what their view is, but I'm concerned when their view seems to be without their own believing it. And
yeah,
if I had done that, We have been able to house and mentor 2,500 men and women since we
Oh,
started.
wow.
If I had not done that, none of them would be out of prison today. None of
Yeah.
them. And it
Yeah.
costs $109 a day to house everybody in prison per day. So
Wow.
just economics alone, we can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think of A Wonderful Life, where Jimmy Stewart was told, George Bailey was told, none of those people that you helped were helped because you weren't here.
Yeah.
That the
That gets me
1,500
every
people on the troop
time
ship,
I
they're
see
all
it.
dead.
Yeah.
That story, that's a perfect example of storytelling conveying a tremendous message of the a man who has friends is the richest man in town,
Yes. Yeah.
and he did it by helping his neighbors.
Yeah. And it's not it's strange when we moved to the last couple of places we lived is people were surprised that we were neighborly. And it's like, when did that stop happening? I mean, you help your neighbors. That's what you do.
I
One
think
day you
it
might
was air
need help and
conditioning.
you want them to help, you know.
I would say that there what we call unintended consequences. We wanted the backyard for to have some private space, but then we brought in air conditioning, and there's no
Yeah.
reason to go outside.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't go outside, you don't see your neighbors. And I may go weeks and not see anybody in my neighborhood because they're all inside. And of course, now we have the phones where you don't need even your own family. You can go into your own little zone.
Yeah. Yeah. All the electronics and everything that's there. I remember as kids, it's like you all get outside and go play with the neighbor kids for a while. And it's like,
Yeah, you don't come back in till the street lights come on.
there you go. That was a little more before me, but is it the oh, I don't remember their names. Is it the Statler brothers that sing that song about living on the street? And that's what they did. Nobody came home. And then until the lights came on the streets, and then it was dark, you needed to go home. But then even then, their neighbors would sit on the porch after dinner and they'd sing songs and it would carry through the neighborhood and there we go, another porch. Benefits of having a porch. And
Well, there are tremendous, tremendous conveniences with the things, our electronics, but
yeah,
we always have to ask, what is the unintended consequence? What
yeah,
is the
yeah.
cost?
Was
The
it
very
Mark
fact that
Twain?
look what we're doing. Look what we're doing right now.
Oh
It's
yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, we get to visit with each other. Wouldn't even be able to do that. I mean, I was talking with somebody from Australia today. It was great. I loved it. Um, but
And
Mark
I don't have to
Twain was
travel on
saying something
I-35 to
about
get to
that.
you.
Yeah, there you go. That, so this weekend I was at Life Surge in Austin and they were making jokes about I-35. It's like, well, I guess I don't drive it enough to know, or I drive it during the different parts of time when everybody else does. But yeah, I was saying Mark Twain, he had said something about it's really going to be a sad time when we no longer have to talk to each other in person. And it's like so true because we're all this way or we text. I mean, gosh, my daughter and I were texting each other. We weren't even texting each other. We were on Facebook. I was in my office. She was in the kitchen. I think she was getting cooking lunch or something. And so we're messaging each other back and forth. And there's anybody can see the messages. And so a friend of ours who's in another town was in there messaging back and forth. And all of a sudden we realized what we were doing and we just started busting up laughing. It's funny, but it's like, I don't know. It's a great way to stay in contact, but what have we sacrificed in the meantime?
Now,
And
let me ask you this. Here's a scenario.
okay,
You're on your phone, you're at the airport, and you're talking to your friend Jack, and you got it on speaker, and you say, "Hi, Jack,"
Oh
at the
no.
airport. Now, that's why the technology can be your undoing.
There you go. There you go. That's funny. Oh, I love that. So I know we've talked a little bit about your book. I know we've really talked about it on the Reading Between the Words podcast, but tell us about your book. I mean, because most of our audience doesn't even know the title of it, they don't know where to get it, and they really don't know what it's about.
Little background. I started to write the story when I was 25. I was homeless, living in a truck. I had a Royal typewriter, and for those younger people out there, there was no cord to it, and you had to do this, and you had to actually put paper in and click every line. But I had nothing to click because I had no story. So, but
Oh,
I was writing journal notes. I just wrote notes to myself, and I end up with 4,000 pages of thoughts.
oh
But when I
wow.
turned 65, I realized that I hadn't done the thing I wanted to do when I was 25. And you take Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, who had reached their first million by 25. Was I a failure? Because I was now successful with Good Samaritan Home, but I didn't write my book. And that's when I realized that didn't start late. I had all of this preparation to get to the point where I had a story to tell.
Yes.
And so all of my mistakes became part of the story, how I overcame my mistakes. And it's not about me, but it's about people like me who are born with a limp of poverty, of abuse, of isolation, perhaps. And we just, for example, how many of us were taught how to study in high school so that we could be prepared for college? I wasn't.
Nope.
We survived.
I wasn't prepared for life after high school.
That's right. You grow up and just get through. And
Yeah.
in my world, you would get up, go to high school, graduate, go to the factory, and then you spend 30 years, have a couple kids you don't know, and then you die. You retire and die.
Yeah. How sad.
And so I wanted to write a story about second chances because that was the work we do with Good Samaritan Home. But I wanted to tell a story that people would listen. And it's called Running as Fast as I Can. And the concept is that some of us are running fast. We just can't catch up because we can't even see the starting line. We
Yeah.
don't know the rules. We don't know what to do. So we're self-taught. And that was fine in 1809. You could teach yourself like Abraham Lincoln. But it doesn't work today when
Right.
everything is based on your clicked off, checked off degrees, or even the skill set that your parents would teach you how to even look for a job.
Right. Right.
And so I talked about Daniel Robinson growing up in that sort of neglect and abuse, and he particularly when you factor in sexual abuse. And like Daniel said at one point, there are some things they say you get over them, but you never do. And
Right.
Daniel spent his entire life trying to learn to walk with a limp. And what happened was he did find happiness eventually, but even happiness has its gray side because you bring your baggage into it.
Right.
And in the end, without giving a spoiler, it does end well, but there's always a sad part to ending well,
Yeah.
and that's reality.
Yeah.
And it's gotten several inspirational awards, 26 awards in all. But the concept is that people are reading it and saying, "I felt Daniel," and I think it's a summation of what we all sometimes feel about. I wish I could. If only I had a chance. Well, you do get a chance, and even at 76, you need to try out for that part in that movie that may get cut,
Yep.
but
But
that's
you did
okay.
it.
But you just try out. So
Yeah.
the fact is that most books independently published don't sell well. In fact, most traditional books don't sell well. John Grisham sells well, Kristen Hanna sells well, but everybody else sells less than 250 copies.
Mhm.
And so I've sold last count 6,000 copies. So I'm more than gratified with the response. And it's not the money. I'll never make money on it. It's what I want is the conversation that we're having. I
Yes.
want people to talk about second chances and to give themselves another chance and your neighbor.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of that movie, Pay It Forward.
Yes.
And 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 that is about second chances, even third and fourth chances. And and I think we need to give ourselves plus others grace. So a lot of times we are too hard on ourselves. We need to give ourselves grace and and just keep going, keep doing, but know that it's okay. All right, something didn't work. Let's try it a different way or try something different. Or maybe sometimes we have to just wait for a while to see what's going to happen.
One of the things I tell my staff, because some of them come from the similar background to our residents, and they're starting their lives over. But our natural response when we deal with somebody who's broken, particularly if they've committed an offense, is that we want to catch them at doing something else. If
Oh,
you're not allowed to be smoking in our house and we find ashes, when we start looking, we're going to catch you. Or if we smell alcohol, we want to catch you with alcohol because that to us is a safety factor. But
right.
what I tell the staff is we can catch them and we could terminate them, but let's find ways to not let it go, but let's find ways to help them stay. Instead of terminating, how do we find a way to encourage them to stay here and still abide by the rules? And that's harder because it's easy to catch them.
Yeah.
Punishment's easy. And mercy is actually not passivity. It's not a blanket forgiveness. It says, I understand what you did. I don't agree with it, but I'll help you change it.
Wow. Wow. I never thought of it that way.
It's more like the nonviolent uh, 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 resistance of the civil rights movement. It was that was not passive. It was actually not nonviolent in the traditional sense. It was passively nonviolent in that you didn't fight back, but you didn't give in.
Right. Right.
And that takes I think, much greater strength.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think of Gandhi. I think of Nelson Mandela, of some of the others.
Mandela's an amazing story. Well, the more I learn about that, and we don't hear enough about it. And I just read a story last week where he was in a restaurant and he was, I think, president at the time, and he saw somebody at the table and he recognized him as one of his jailers. And
Oh,
he had the authority as president. He could have gone to him and he could have confronted him. He could have had him arrested. He could have made his life difficult, and he didn't. But just sitting there and not responding to him, knowing all he had done, the guilt alone was so overwhelming on this guard that spoke volumes.
yeah.
And my being here, my being alive, speaks volumes. I don't have to say anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Reminds me of the story of Corey Ten Boom. Had just been talking about forgiveness. And from the back of the room, this man comes up, and all of a sudden she recognizes him as one of the guards who was horribly cruel, especially to her sister. Um, and he came up to her and he wanted to shake her hand and ask her forgiveness. And she said at that point, she she really had to pray that, Lord, I don't think I can forgive him, so you're going to have to forgive him through me. Something to that point. And she reached out her hand to shake his. And she said, the moment his hand touched her hand, she felt God's love go through there. And at that
Mm.
moment, she was able to forgive him. Um, and that just shows that we don't know what we're capable of doing. We don't know what kind of mercy and grace we can give to others until we're actually put in the spot. And
I wrote an
um,
article for my Substack page last week, just talking about. I sometimes touch on the church and sometimes touch on politics, but I said the turning point for the church was when the moral majority came into the to be a major player, because we wanted power. We wanted to sit at, Dr. King would say, the right and the left hand of the throne of God, and we did. We gained power. The evangelical church became the power player in the Republican politics, and as a result, the number of people have left in droves, and the church has become a political action committee instead of a place where God's love transfers through our fingertips. And I think we paid a very high price for that power.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, we need to know where the real power comes from. We need to take a stand and we can gather together, but when we start putting it all on, look what I did. I'm the one who did all of this. Well, you're not the one who did it all. It's several that went with it, and most of the time we've got God watching our back. So just make sure that we don't turn our backs on him and then nobody's there watching it for us.
That's probably my concern for our culture right now is
Yeah.
not just in matters of faith, but in the matters of politics. I'm afraid we could become numb and indifferent.
Yes.
What's the
Yeah.
point? Why bother? And that to me is probably the most dangerous response. It took me 30 years to vote after the Vietnam era because I went through all of that chaos, and I was involved in protests on the day of the Kent State shootings. I was involved in a protest, and it was extremely dangerous time. And the country was literally coming apart. And I see us, we have forgotten how chaotic that was and how hateful that was. And I hear echoes of that in today's conversations, but this time it's coming from the top as well as from the grassroots.
Oh,
And the
wow.
name calling is most discouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no place for that, you know. And that's something we have to learn in our businesses too, is how do we conduct ourselves when when things are not like we want them? Do we just go ahead and start blaming everybody else and do that? And one thing I've learned through all of the leadership training I've gone through is you take responsibility. The ones who blame other people are the ones who can't take responsibility for their own actions, who don't want to. They're not the leaders. The leaders are the ones who take responsibility for what they've done, who are um, willing to own up to it, but then are also willing to correct it and willing to keep going forward and to make it better. And I think that's last part. You have to have a willing to make something better is more important than anything.
As an Austin native, you understand what I'm about to say is that being here in Texas, I find it brings out the better part of me because I'm reminded that with it's 65% Hispanic in this part of the state.
Mhm.
And I'm a minority. When I walk into a restaurant or a store, I have no idea if they're going to speak Spanish or English because
Yeah.
I'm in the 35%. And I look around me, and when say I'm in church, I'll see brown face after brown face, and I'm the only Anglo for probably the entire church. And I thought, this is the way it should be, because it
Yeah.
reminds me that it's not my country, it's our country.
Right.
And I find the Hispanic community to make me a better person. And the very fact that it's different is exactly what I need.
Yeah. I was just telling a friend of mine today, um, I was on a Zoom call and we had someone from South Africa. We had someone from the UK and then another part of the UK. We had someone from another country. and I'm listening to these voices that are so different from each other. And the first thought that comes into my head, I can hardly wait till I get to heaven and I get to hear everybody's voices. And we're all going to be singing, and it's going to be voices from every part of the world. And it's going to be amazing just to hear everybody. I love it. I love all the different aspects of being different. It's wonderful.
Well, my only concern is that there'll be a lot of drums, and don't want drums in heaven. Sorry. I need, a flute, guitar maybe, but no drums.
I don't know, I think drums are kind of cool.
They're kind of loud.
I don't, that would be a problem though, you know? I don't
Well,
know.
I spend my time in, I like to go to a monastery and just to breathe it
I,
in.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think there'll be that time too.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go. Oh, goodness, goodness. This time always goes so fast. I just, you know, sometimes we need
This has
several
been my
hours to
most
talk.
invigorating and different conversation I've had in a long time. Thank you.
All right. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, thank you for being here and thank your audience for being here, whether you hear us or you see us. We're glad that you're here, and we'll see you next time on Wisdom on the Front Porch.
Thank you all.
Yeah. So, John, I think I sent you my book, Marta's Jade. I think it was you I sent it to. Did you have a chance to read it?
I've been buried, just buried. I think I've seen it and I probably pulled it aside, but I haven't been into it yet.
Yeah, I know I saw it somewhere and I don't. Let me look here.
No, you're talking about electronic copy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Word document I sent to you. Yeah, yeah. Because when I pull up the name John, it's got all these different emails on there, and it's like, well, I thought it was him, and then we're talking about your book, and it's like, oh, I wonder if he was the one I
Hmm.
sent it to.
Well, let me see here. Uh,
Let me go back to my,
LS. We're not recording now, are we?
oh, not for the show, no.
Okay.
November 5th is the date on it.
Okay.
Boy,
I've got
that's
November
gone by
5th.
so fast.
Uh, I've got the instructions on November 5th. There's no attachment to that one. It's a link.
Okay. And I don't
Oh,
remember
wait a
who.
minute. Here it is.
Oh,
It's a
oh, you
second email.
found it?
Okay, I've got it right here.
Okay. I'm not sure why I sent it to you. I'm pretty
Well,
protective of
we
that book.
discussed that. I remember that.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's not long at all.
No.
Oh, okay. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to pull it out of here.
Okay.
I just finished reading another book last night, so your timing is good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Let me pull that out. Looks like it's a little sit down read. Shouldn't take that long.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably some spelling and other grammatical errors. When I did it, it was one of the first books I put on Amazon. I put 3 books on. And because people that read it said they really liked the story. But I didn't have it edited. I thought editors for magazines and newspapers. I didn't know you needed them for books.
I spent 2 years with my editor, and it was like getting a colonoscopy. It was the best and worst of times. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Yeah, not a happy image.
Well, editing is like that. And
Yeah.
he was a third of my age and twice as bright as me. So I
Oh
listened to him.
man. Yeah.
But he didn't have the wisdom of age yet.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That does happen, doesn't it? It's
It
like,
it it takes time, like wine. It takes time
yeah.
to mellow.
Yeah. It's like I told a young friend of mine, it's like I'm old now. I know things and I know people.
Yeah, that's what it is. And we live in a culture where everybody's supposed to be a young hard body, but the young hard bodies don't have the background, the development, even the brain development till they're
Yeah.
24. Their reasoning capacity is still impulse driven.
Yep.
So
Definitely.
they need us. And my wife and I try to be the anchor in our family because we've been together 47 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, well, she put up with a lot, trust me.
Yeah.
Now, practical question. When do you anticipate this will post? Because I'm going to link it to my website.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'll just be straight
Yeah, send
honest
me an
with
email.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
let me know
It
because
it may
I
not
link
be
it that way
until after the first of
people
the
can
year.
check them out later on.
Yeah. Yeah. It may not be till the first of the year.
That's not a problem at all. Now,
Okay.
would it be possible to pull a clip from it to use on to promote it on my
Oh,
end?
yeah. In fact, I'll put clips on the different social media sites too.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah,
if they're
people don't sit down
not,
for an hour, but they will take a 2 and 3 minute clip of one discussion,
yeah.
and that may lead to somebody taking the whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. We can maybe talk about what clips I've got. You'll just have to remind me about that.
Well, also I can do it through ClipCut.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, the AI at its best, but what it does is it'll pick it up and I can reject or accept, but it'll take the whole thing. I'm just learning how to do that, but
Good.
it seems to work well on social media.
Okay. That's excellent. That's good to
Excellent.
know.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for tonight.
Oh, thank you, John. I really appreciate you being here.
Okay. Good night
Okay, good
now.
night.
Thank you for joining us today on Wisdom on the Front Porch with your host, Ellis Kirkpatrick. You can find us on our website, wisdomonthefrontporch.com, see previous episodes of the podcast, and view issues of the magazine. Did you know you can submit questions, leave reviews, or suggest topics? You can also tell us where your favorite front porch location is and what it means to you. We hope you gain value and insight from today's or previous talks. We appreciate your support for us so we can continue to provide value and expertise to you and others. Subscribe to Wisdom on the Front Porch magazine and join in next week when we bring you another great insight into the world of entrepreneur culture and lifestyle. Make today a great day. Always believe that something wonderful is going to happen.